Hey everybody, welcome. Pastore here. Today I'm going to be talking about some esports stuff with y'all. So if you're ready, we're going to get started. Let me tell you what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be talking about, first I'm going to start out, I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes a game successful, things that make a game successful, and then I'm going to be talking about basically like how esports are set up in general, like how does this work? When I say esports, what does that mean and what are the different types? And I'm basically expanding on a few of the other videos that I've done earlier. So let's get started. I'm gonna show you guys some stuff. So you're not gonna see me so big. You're gonna get to see some actual screens and see some stuff, and let's kind of talk about it. So if you are ready, let's get started. All right, so first of all, let's talk about what makes a game successful. And I am, for this, actually gonna pull up something. Let's see. Oh, we don't need that started up right now. Let me pull myself back up here. Let's see. Boom, boom. And boom. All right, cool. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about what makes a game successful in esports. And then as soon as we do that, we're going to go into like how these leagues are set up and how things are set up in general. Okay, so basically, in esports, so let's take any video game before we even start talking about the esports component. So we have to assume that we're talking about some kind of game. The game is well designed and people enjoy it. But that doesn't make an esports, right? That doesn't make a game like an esports game. So what is it that makes a game an esports game and successful in esports? Besides having a good game, besides it being well designed, besides having all the stuff players like. So we're assuming that we have a good game. But there are different types of video games, right? Some are successful in esports and some are not. So let's talk about the qualities that make a game successful in esports. All right, so first of all, there has to be something about the game that makes it competitive. And that could be anything. But there has to be something that makes this game competitive. So that's like the first criteria for any kind of game to be esports. And that can be based on time, score, beating another opponent, multiplayer components, and stuff like that. But let's talk about the components that make a game successful in esports. These are categories, these are components that each successful esports game has. All right, so first of all, they have a big following and a community. So the game has a following and a community. Before it was successful in esports, it had some kind of following, some kind of community. Now, some companies like Riot or Blizzard, big companies like that are able to just release a game and create immediately a big community for it. But a smaller company needs to first build that community up and then convert the game into an esports game. Whereas larger companies can do that right away when they're just starting. Okay, next thing, developer support and regular updates. The game must have support and be consistently updating. Notice how if you're familiar with League of Legends or World of Warcraft, those games are updated every single week with changes. Every week, those games are updated. So updated consistently. Developer support is very important. People aren't going to take a game seriously where there's one person trying to do the development and they're developing it, like updating it maybe every 3 months, every 6 months. Not going to work. Because when something's broken, it needs to be fixed right away. When things aren't balanced, they need to be corrected. All right, next thing. Game needs to be simple to learn. Easy as that. Simple to learn. That doesn't mean that esports games are easy. They just need to be simple to learn. And if it's not super, super easy to learn, there's a really good tutorial and way to ease new players into the game. Now, when I say simple to learn, that doesn't mean the game's easy, because all esports games, the next quality is hard to master, difficult to master. Easy to learn, difficult to master. What does that mean? It's very difficult to be in the top few percentage of players, like that top 5 to 1%. Extremely difficult to be in that situation. So players who learn the game and become what's called a noob or a new guy or whatever, they're a new player, can consistently improve and improve and improve and get better and better. Very similar to any other sport. Think about let's take a sport. Let's take basketball. No, you know what? Let's take an even easier sport. Let's take running. Running. Let's just take running. So I can't have you go out, if you've never ran in your life, you probably can't just go out and run a mile, right? But I can train you over the course of like 5 to 10 weeks to run a mile. I can have you, they're called like couch to 5K. I can get someone to be able to accomplish that goal of running a mile. That might mean running 100 yards at first, running 200 yards at first, learning proper form, getting proper shoes, but learning how to run, slowly building up so they can run a mile. Then guess what? If they want their goals to run like a 7-minute mile, we can consistently improve their mile time. Esports are no different. Easy to learn, but difficult to master. All right. Next thing, game outcome depends on skill. Skill determines the game outcome, not luck, not random things happening. The game outcome depends on skill. That doesn't mean there aren't components of the game that are lucky, like take poker. Poker can be it's kind of luck what hand you're dealt, but the way you play, the skill of that professional poker player can beat out someone who gets a good hand, because they're good at bluffing. There's some skill that makes the outcome change. All right, next thing, prize money. It's one of the biggest things that makes an esports game popular. What kind of prize money? What's in it for me? That's what the players say. What's in it for me of playing and becoming a pro in this game? What is in it for me? So that's why when I say the big games can create that community right away, a big company like Riot and Blizzard can create tournaments and put that money in right away. They can create a big game, put money into it. All right. Let's see. Put that money. I was just testing my sound really quick, making sure everything's working. I do like to do that. All right. Next thing, streaming appeal. What does that mean? It means people can actually enjoy watching this game. And some games are better than others for that. For example, a game like League of Legends or any of the sports games like Madden, NBA 2K, FIFA are great. Great for watching. Rocket League's another one. Great for watching on screen. But a first-person shooter like Overwatch, Valorant, they're good at watching, but me personally, I don't think they're as good. They just don't have that overhead view, 360 view, to be able to see multiple things happening. But they're still good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying that certain games are better than others. So the game has to have some kind of appeal for a streaming audience. Like, it's fun to watch this game. I enjoy watching people play it, just like I enjoy watching a sport or a TV show. And just a statistic here, 42% of people who watch esports on Twitch and tournaments don't actually play the game they're watching. They just enjoy watching it. That's the kind of appeal you need. 42%. That's according to Newzoo, who does a significant amount of work in esports research. All right, next thing. Infrastructure for tournaments. There needs to be some kind of infrastructure for the tournaments. So, whether that's a league or whatnot. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. And the final thing, some kind of spectator mode. The reason spectator mode's important is A, for streaming, B, for announcing, so have someone announce it, and C, so that players can go back, watch their gameplay, and critique and reflect on what they did. So let's go through that list one more time, and then let's move on to the next thing. So we got a big following player base, developer support with regular updates, easy to learn, difficult to master, game outcome depends on skill, prize money in the game, appeal for a streaming audience. Remember, 40% of the people aren't playing the game that they're watching because they just enjoy the game, infrastructure for tournaments, and a spectator mode. That's it. Those are the qualities. Now, a lot of you are going to look at this and say, well, no kidding, all those things are great to have. How do you get that? Well, that's another question. But those are the components that all successful games have in common. Okay, cool. So now let's get into the way esports are set up. Like, how are these things set up in general? And what am I even talking about when I'm talking about like how esports are set up? So let me talk about that. I want to talk about a little bit about the leagues and just how the different components of esports are set up. Because I say esports and people are like, well, what does that mean? And okay, so here's a great graphic I'm going to show you guys. Let me shrink my screen here. Pull this up. Oh, I'm hidden. Where am I? I went away. Let's pull myself up so we can see me a little bit here, so you can see me while I talk. Okie dokie. So this is a great picture of the esports ecosystem. And I'm going to go through this in just a second, but this is what the esports ecosystem looks like. Okay, so let's just look at this whole entire picture. And the reason you see me like turning my head like woo 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 woo, I got monitors going on everywhere. So I like have things in multiple monitors and I'm doing multiple things. That's why you like see things everywhere. And I'm also doing some tests. I'm testing out like a bunch of different video equipment. Like I'm testing out Zoom with OBS today while I'm doing this video. That's just like for fun. And I actually kind of like it. So it's a cool, and with my multiple monitors, kind of a cool setup. So anyway, back on topic. Okay, so let's start out. What does esports mean? What does this ecosystem look like? 'Cause I think this is really important. I think a lot of people miss this. So we start out, we have players and teams, right? We have players and players form teams. So there are teams. These teams can be professional, amateur, whatever. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute too. The teams play these games. For example, League of Legends, Overwatch, and Rocket League, and all these cool different games that are super fun. All right, so they play games. These games go into different leagues and tournaments. Just like soccer, football, there's different leagues, right? There are leagues. The games from the leagues are then streamed via platforms. Twitch and YouTube are the main two big popular ones, right? And there are lots of fans who like it and watch it. And then you get these big sponsors. So we have different types of game publishers, people who make the games like Riot, people who advertise like Coca-Cola, and people who invest in these leagues and platforms and games like various companies. So that's kind of the main overview of the ecosystem. We have teams, games, leagues, platforms, fans. Okay, so within this, the way that esports, so let's talk about esports at the professional level first. So at the professional level, we have teams, but in addition to teams, we more or less have organizations now. So what does that mean? It means that we have a team, but a team might consist of, they have a name, and that team might have actual teams in multiple games. So think of like a track and field team. A track and field team has a running team, short distance, long distance, sprinters. They have a triple jump team, a long jump team, a high jump team, a pole vaulting team, a javelin, discus, all the stuff, right? A track and field team has all these different minute teams within it. Esports is no different. So when I have an esports team, I probably have a team that plays League of Legends. I have a team that's playing Overwatch, a team that's playing Smash Brothers, a team that's playing Valorant, whatever games my organization chooses to sponsor. So so most of the big professional teams all have multiple sub-teams that play all these different games in all the different leagues and tournaments. Okay, so that's kind of how the esports and organization is set up. Now, what's interesting is when we talk about leagues and tournaments, esports is still in the Wild West. So we're not at a point yet where like we have the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball. We don't have that yet. There's many different leagues and many different tournaments. It almost kind of reminds me of professional soccer where we have like a ton of stuff going on, but that's because there's multiple countries and stuff involved in that. Soccer's a little different, but we don't have like one standout big league yet. So it's kind of like we're following the money. So it makes it very confusing as to what should you be watching, like what's the biggest. So there are some big overall leagues that are kind of standing out as the best. So let me just really quickly show you. Basically, the International Esports Federation is kind of where we're headed professionally. They're the oldest and the largest current league. And I realize you can no longer see me, so let me pop myself up on the screen here. They're kind of the oldest, and let me just make myself a little bit bigger. They're kind of the oldest. There we go. Okay, so they're kind of the oldest and biggest. And that's what we have at the professional level. But then there's so many different other professional leagues happening and tournaments. It's very difficult to keep track. which makes it confusing for people trying to pay attention to esports. And we have each game publisher creating their own league. And so there's a lot of things happening. So we're in the Wild West. People are duking it out, as I've said that before, use that example. And we're going to see someone emerge the way that the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, all that stuff happened as well. Same thing's going to happen in esports. We're just not there yet. But pay attention because it's going to happen. So then at the college level, very similarly, pull this up. At the college level, we've got NACE, which is the National Association for College Esports. And they're kind of taking the reins at the college level, similar to the way the NCAA is for college now. So we're kind of getting this college level experience. But again, even at the college level, we have other leagues, other tournaments, and we have like club level, amateur level, and then varsity level, which is NACE. So it's formulated a little better at high school and college. And then in high school, we have the High School Esports League. And this is kind of emerged as the big place for high school esports. And you can see like sponsored by the Army, you know, we got military sponsors, we got some really big sponsors in esports, which is really cool to watch and see. So that's the real organization. That's how it's being organized. Those are the multiple and different levels right now. So when you think about it, so the way esports, we have these teams, then we have the games. They play in various leagues and tournaments, which are streamed to an audience. So that's the ecosystem of esports. It's kind of cool to watch and kind of cool to see how it's happening. And kind of cool to see like who is investing and what are these organizations like. But when you think about an esports organization, think about track and field, how there's just multiple different teams within one org. Same thing with esports. Very easy when you're thinking about it like that to really see the big picture. But that's everything. That's all the stuff that I had for today. If you have any questions, let me know. You can always comment in my videos down below and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. You know, my students taking my esports course, this is really just supplemental to the stuff that they're going through in their class because, you know, this unit we're learning about a lot of this stuff. So anyway, guys, have a great day. I hope everyone's doing well. Any feedback for me, as always, let me know. And later.